What's up, curious readers? It's Dave from Dave's Book Summaries, and today I am back with another book. So this book is from the I Survive series. It's The Battle of the D-Day 1944. It's written by Tarshis, who has written most of the I Survive series. So this book is basically a historical fiction book. It was set in 1944 during the climax of the World War II. This book is about the invasion of the World War II on the beaches of Normandy, France. So let's get started. The book starts with an 11-year-old boy named Paul who is trying to sell his soccer ball so that he can get his mom a gift for her birthday. He goes to sell the soccer ball inside a park where all the shopkeepers have their stalls. He goes to the stall of a shopkeeper named Boris. Boris says that he doesn't want the ball even though it is good leather. Paul, upset, sits down inside the park and has flashbacks of a horrific event that happened inside that same park a couple months ago. This event goes like this. Paul's favorite teacher, Mr. Leon, was killed by Nazis because supposedly Mr. Leon was part of the French resistance. People that don't know what this is, the resistance is basically a group of common French people who do movements to hurt Nazi Germany inside France and other parts of Europe. Now, Mr. Leon was killed because of this and his body was at the bottom of the river. Paul thinks that if Mr. Leon did not give up even after France was invaded, why should Paul give up so soon to get his mom a gift? Paul goes back to Boris and tells him that it's his mom's birthday and that he needs to sell the ball to get some money. Hearing this, Boris immediately takes the ball and gives Paul 10 coins to go buy his mom a gift. Paul buys some Madeleines. On his way back home, when he was walking on the road, a bunch of Germans, Nazis, came up with motorbikes and almost ran him over. Paul, to save his life, had to jump on the side of the road. When he did this, all his Madeleines got crushed and crumbed into pieces. He was very upset and was crying on the side of the road when a pigeon came up to him and started flying around in really fast circles. This made Paul think that the pigeon wanted Paul to follow it. When Paul followed the pigeon, he was led into a garden on the side of the road. Inside the garden, he saw an American army officer stuck on a tree because his parachute got tangled inside the branches. He tells Paul that his knife had accidentally fallen down and that if Paul could do him a favor and bring him his knife. Paul did this even though he knew that if he got caught, he would be dead. Then, once the American officer is free, he tells Paul that his name is Sergeant Victor Lopez from the American Army. Now, once they were doing all their introductions, Paul also found out that the pigeon was actually Victor's carrier pigeon, whose name was Ellie. And then, when they were talking, they eventually heard a lot of German voices coming their way. Because of this, Paul had to lead Victor into hiding behind a bush. The Germans had a dog with them who smelled Victor's blood and started walking towards where Paul and Victor were hiding. But Ellie, who was a really brave bird, came up and attacked the dog. This made the dog run away. When the dog ran away, the German officers thought it was more important to get their dog back. So they started running behind the dog. When this was happening, Victor told Paul that he had helped him enough and could leave. But Paul said that he knew a really good hiding spot where he could take him. Victor tried to deny, saying that it was too much help to ask from an 11-year-old boy. But when they heard German voices coming their way again, Victor had no choice but to follow Paul. Paul had explored every inch of the city, so because he knew all the shortcuts and the twists and turns, he was able to lead Victor into the castle laid rock. When they got there, Victor thought that he knew where they were because he was here for some work for the resistance. When they got there, they weren't sure though. But when they met the resistance officers, they knew for a fact that this was where Victor was supposed to be. When Paul was about to leave, a shock caught him up. The shock was that Mr. Leon was still alive. Mr. Leon was the same person who had been killed by the Nazis inside the park. But turns out that he had actually managed to escape. and Mr. Leon wasn't able to tell everyone that he escaped, because if the word spread around, his life and the life of everyone else in the resistance, their lives would be in danger. That's why Mr. Leon had to keep it a secret. Paul was about to start to leave again when Mr. Leon said that his mom was due there in a couple hours. Another shock for Paul. This meant that Paul's mom was also part of the resistance. Now, because Paul had found out, he decided to stick around with his mom for the night. Then they learned of the mission why Victor was here. Victor's job was to help the resistance blow up a special cannon type of thing that the Germans had, and it was called the Nebelwerfers. I don't know how to exactly pronounce that, but I think. So, these were basically killing machines that could kill thousands and thousands of people within seconds. According to Victor, the invasion was about to happen. The invasion was to be named Operation Overlord, which was the biggest invasion by sea that would ever happen. To help the Allies that were invading France, they had to destroy these Nebelwerfers. Victor's plan was to plant a really sensitive explosive inside the Nebelwerfers. Once the Nebelwerfers were shot, instead of the bullet hurting other people, it would activate the explosive and and the cannon itself would explode. Then Victor told everyone about how they were going to do this and everything. Then, once the whole plan was discussed, 3 people were chosen to go to the point on the map where the Nebelwerfers were kept. Now the 3 people went, and everyone else was waiting inside the castle. When the 3 people got to the location, they found out that the Nebelwerfers weren't being kept at that same location. Those deadly weapons had been moved to another new location that no one else knew of. Before getting out of the shed, though, the 3 managed to grab a book, which was basically had many maps inside it, which would eventually lead them to the location of the Nebelwerfers. But before they were able to escape, 3 guards around the shed caught the 3 men, and they shot them. 2 of them managed to escape, 1 without any injuries, 1 with little injury, and 1 of them was completely dead, which was really sad. But once the 2 people managed to escape, they were running when one of them realized that the other one was severely injured on his foot. So the one had to carry the other back to the castle so that they could get treated on. Inside the castle, some doctors and nurses were also part of the resistance, so they were able to have them clean up. When they got there, the perfectly healthy man, once he was well rested, told everyone else that the Nebelwerfers had been moved to a new location. When they opened the book that had been snatched, they found out that that book had a map which pointed the exact location of the Nebelwerfers. This was the new location. Now, once they found out of the new location, they understood that the new location was on the beaches, which basically meant that no one could be able to go there because all the beaches were sealed off with barbed wires and guards were posted around them. Because Paul had explored every inch of the city, he knew how to get to the Nebelwerfers' position without going through the main bridge. But obviously he was not able to draw a map of this because this was a secret route and it had too many twists and turns. He said that he could go and show them where the Nebelwerfers were. But everyone else denied Paul, saying that that an 11-year-old boy should not be doing anything this dangerous. Now Paul was mad at the Nazis and said that he wanted to help as best as he could. Then Mr. Leon said that it's okay, I will take Paul. They left in 5 minutes, and once they got to the locations, they split the explosives among themselves and planted one inside each Nebelwerfer. But the invasion had started. So Paul and Mr. Leon were stuck on the beach when the invasion started and bullets were going all around. Then, once they had eventually there was some peace and quiet between the gunshots, Paul and Mr. Leon were able to hide somewhere, but they had gotten separated. Now Paul was hiding somewhere when a Nazi found him and he was about to be shot for being there because there was an extra piece of explosive inside his pocket that the Nazi saw and he knew exactly what it was. Now because before Paul was about to be shot, another piece of metal came and hit the Nazi straight in the head. This knocked out the Nazi and Paul was able to run away safely. Paul went back to the castle. When he got there, he realized that everyone else had left except his mom. There were another couple people there, but they were also leaving that moment. Mr. Leon had never come back to that castle. When his mom and Paul were sitting inside the castle, they found out that there was Germans coming their way. One of the deadliest Nazis inside France, his name was Stroop. Stroop was headed straight for the castle, and he was about to shoot Paul and his mom because he had found out that this was a resistance hideout. Paul and his mom had no option but to keep running inside the castle. There was a legend saying that in the top tower of the castle, there was a dragon that protected the city. This castle was where everyone in the olden times used to come and hide to during times of danger so that the dragon would protect them. Paul's mom and Paul had no option but to run straight for that tallest tower. They got to the top of the tallest tower, which was almost falling apart. It was basically crumbled. And when they got there, Stroop had followed them straight into that castle's top tower. Stroop also got there and was about to shoot them when, guess who came out? A bird! A bird came out and knocked out more bricks, pecked Stroop, which made Stroop lose his balance and fall into nothingness. Stroop fell down from the tallest tower and obviously died. Guess who that bird was? It was Ellie. So it turns out that Ellie was the dragon. Or at least that's what they assumed, because Ellie had been the one that had protected them many, many times. Now, the story of the invasion basically ends here, but we have another chapter which is from around 20 years after the invasion. Now in this, Paul has his own home and he was waiting for a very special guest to arrive at his house. This guest was none other than his best friend, Jerry. Gary was basically alive and had somehow escaped from the concentration camps. Turns out that Paul had received a letter a couple weeks ago saying that, "Hello, dear friend Paul. This is Gerard," whatever his name was, "but you might remember me as Gary." When Paul started reading the letter, his hands started shaking and he barely managed to finish reading it. And today, Paul had organized for Gerard, or Gary, to come to his house and meet after many, many years. Once Gary got there, they talked for a long time before Paul's energetic and extra excited son dragged them out into the backyard so that they could play. Paul took out a very secret position which was very special to Gary and Paul, their old soccer ball. Turns out that Boris, the shopkeeper, was also part of the resistance and had later returned the soccer ball to Paul. Now, because Paul had gotten the soccer ball back, he showed it to Gary, and Gary was also very happy. They eventually started playing soccer before Paul's son kicked it really hard into the forest's grass and basically weeds. Paul's son thought that he had lost it, but If Paul had learned anything from D-Day and everything that had happened in his life, it was that nothing is lost. You only have to know where to find it. Paul told this to his son, and they eventually found the soccer ball, and they kept playing. Okay, curious reader, so that's it for this book. That was the end of the story. And if you want to read more I Survived series, I recommend that you go get them and read more, because I Survived is a very good series. Now, thanks for watching my videos. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and share the video so that other people get knowledge about the books. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.